bring to the podium first one of our District 10 candidates, and that is Dr. Richard Winfield from the University of Georgia.
I am in a position where I can't officially declare until January 1st when I go on unpaid leave as required by law in order to run for Congress. Now, I'm not here to preach to the choir or to tell you what you're already thinking. I'm here rather to shake you up and to present an agenda that no government official and no recent candidates have endorsed. And I'm going to be putting forward some bold proposals that we need if we are going to arrest the continuing destruction of the American dream and the continued erosion of our democracy. Now, I think we all have to recognize that our party is, in some respect, in its weakest situation in our lifetimes, having suffered defeats greater than any we have witnessed in our lifetime. Part of this is due to gerrymandering and the influx of money without restriction, but it's also due to a lack of political imagination and political courage. What we as a party have failed to do is to put forward the policies that can guarantee to everyone the economic independence and security they need in order to support their families and participate as equals in the political process. Now, I want to put forward a new agenda, and the anchor of that agenda is something that once upon a time was part of the Democratic Party platform. It was never acted upon, and it disappeared when Bill Clinton ran for president. And that was the commitment to guarantee jobs for anyone who wants one. We have to recognize that although there are many ways of earning a living, many people talk as if we could all be entrepreneurs. Well, even if you are lucky enough to have capital or credit to earn a living as an entrepreneur or renting property, you know that if your business fails, you are left with what all the rest of us have to rely upon. We who make up more than 90% of the breadwinners of the United States. Namely, we have our own labor power. We have our own capacity to work. And if people are really going to have the opportunity to earn a living and be able to exercise their freedoms, we have to ensure that our government is really for the people by ensuring that anyone who wants a job can have a job. The market can never be relied upon to guarantee full employment. Competition has winners and losers. The winners have to themselves continually change their marketing and production to become more competitive, which involves turmoil in the labor market. Government has to step in as employer of last resort. And this does not mean duplicating what private enterprises are doing. It means tackling all of those productions and services that we need as a community, which profit-seeking enterprises are neither willing nor able to come up with. And we know there's a ton of work to be done. Not just repairing our infrastructure, building a new green infrastructure, providing broadband for everyone, providing public transportation where it's needed, renovating substandard housing, building affordable housing, providing all the goods and services and refurbished public facilities that we need, as well as offering art, literature, film, music to those who don't have access to it. This really is the basis of a new awakening of freedom, and it's easy to see how it is transformative if you think of the situation of any young person who faces twice as much unemployment as the rest of us, 4 times as much unemployment if they're from a minority community. Think of how their lives would change if they know that they have a job awaiting them that serves the common good. Imagine how anyone coming out of prison has their life completely transformed if they know they have a way of earning an honest, legal livelihood awaiting them that will serve the community. Imagine how anyone coming back from military service knows they will never have to face unemployment and homelessness, but will always have the guarantee of a job serving the public good. And as for the rest of us who may be lucky enough to have full-time employment, we will know we don't have to worry about being downsized, laid off, put onto part-time employment, because our government will come to bat for us and provide us a job serving the common good. This is a real game changer. It also produces the tightest labor market possible, that makes it possible, or that puts all other employees in the strongest position to bargain for better wages and conditions of work. Now, when we talk about guaranteed employment, we also have to think about what should be the new minimum wage, which should be the basic level where everyone will start out and never have to fall below. It's not good enough to talk about a living wage. It's not good enough to talk about a living wage with inflation protection. Because if that's all we talk about, we are resigning ourselves to allowing wages to become a smaller and smaller part of our national wealth as our economy becomes more productive and grows. Instead, we have to put back on the table a fundamental principle that was a principle of our rising standard of living. That is, that wage levels have to be tied to the growth of the economy, to rising productivity. In that way, the share of the national wealth going to wages is not going to decline as it has every year since 1973, leading to a more and more unequal United States and smaller economic growth because all the wealth on the top is sitting there unused. Whereas if we can participate in it more evenly, we can put it back into the economy. So what we're talking about concretely is a new minimum fair, not just living, but fair wage, which participates in our growing economic growth and prosperity and productivity, and that would come to at least $20 an hour with inflation adjustments and productivity adjustments. Now, guaranteed jobs and a fair wage is just a part of what it means to have one's freedom respected as a member of the economy. Because there's also the question of our freedom, of our right to participate in our workplace. And with the growth and concentration of economic enterprises, there is an increasing inequality in the power and opportunity of employers on the one hand and employees on the other. We have to level the playing field with two fundamental transformations. One is to require that all corporate boards have at least 50% of their members drawn from non-managerial employees elected by their peers. No longer will CEOs make 300 times what their average workers make. No longer will decisions on automation, on outsourcing be made independently of the workers who are crucial to the enterprise. On the other hand, we have to ensure that at every workplace with multiple employees, including contract employees, freelancers, that the employers are compelled to engage in collective bargaining with the elected representatives of their employees. We need to make this a fact of life of every workplace so that we, the employees of America, can have a fair say in our daily lives. Now, these three measures, guaranteed employment, a fair minimum wage, and employee empowerment, are not enough to ensure a new birth of freedom. Because as we all know, many of us are unable to take advantage of such aspects of livelihood because of our family responsibilities. And this is particularly true of women, who, as we all know, bear the greatest burden in taking care of children and taking care of elders. 83% of single-parent households are headed by women. More than 2/3 of the family members who take care of elders who can no longer care for themselves are women. And if you have the burden of having to take care of these responsibilities, you cannot pursue your career. You cannot expect the kind of retirement income that everyone else has. So we have to make sure that everyone can attend to their family responsibilities and still earn a fair living and participate in their economic freedoms. And to do this, there are two sides of the equation. One is we have to require all employers to give paid family emergency time, a 1-month paid vacation, and at least 9-month paid parental leave, so that we can have time to deal with our newborns and with our family when we have to. But on the other hand, even that is not enough. Because we all know that the expense of child care and elder care is astronomical. So if we really want to eliminate the economic bases of why women are paid less and are not fairly represented in the higher echelons of our economy and politics, we have to establish free public child care and free public elder care so that everyone can have their family responsibilities handled without diminishing their economic welfare. And on top of that, if we really want to abolish one of our great embarrassments as a country, if we want to eliminate the great degree of childhood poverty, we have to ensure that every family has sufficient resources in accord with how many dependents they have. So we have to have child allowances of at least $500 per child per month. There are about 74 million children in this country. If we give $6,000 a year to all, that comes to $44 billion. That is a drop in the bucket. That is less than 0.5% of the amount of wealth in the hands of the top 1% of this country, who control as much wealth as that of the 90th percentile. We have to think of completely transforming our tax system. So we draw upon the wealth that is accumulated and use a highly graduated wealth tax to do this. And when we turn to health care, we have to keep in mind that neither Obamacare, nor Medicare, nor Medicaid are adequate. We cannot just say we're for Medicare for all, because if you're old enough, as I am, to know what Medicare is like, you know that it does not cover everything. It has co-pays, it has deductibles, and there are many people who can't get the health care they need who are on Medicare. So we need a super Medicare system that will cover all physical, mental, dental care with no co-pays, no deductible, no prescription costs whatsoever. We have to take a similar approach to education. We have to ensure that everyone in primary and secondary schools gets equal support no matter what zip code they live in. We need to raise teacher salaries. We need to raise their qualifications. And with regard to housing, we have to ensure that no one is evicted and no one is foreclosed upon. We need protections with mandatory rescheduling of payments backed up by a public housing insurance program. Amen. One last thing I want to say is that on all of these kind of programs, all of these elements of a new social bill of rights, we cannot protect our rights if our legal standing is dependent upon how much money we have. But we are not all equal in front of the law in our system. Money plays a decisive role. We see that in its most ugly form in the toleration of for-profit prisons that have an incentive to keep as many people behind bars for as long as possible and treat them as cheaply as possible. We have a bail system that no other country in the world has except for the Philippines, which have it because they were our colony, where we keep people in prison because they don't have the money to buy their way out. We need to abolish bail. But above all, we need to set up a legal care system for all, similar to a single-payer healthcare system, where anyone can go to any lawyer they want, not just for criminal, but for civil cases, and have their legal fees paid for by a national legal insurance fund. Then everyone will be able to defend themselves when they are victimized by people with deeper pockets, whether it's for the sexual predators, those who are violating our rights to live without discrimination. We all know that civil cases are absolutely crucial to our lives. Well, these are the bases of a big, bold agenda that can really promise a great America, an America that is great in the true sense of being the most just community in human history. Now, I'm going to be speaking about this with greater frequency and intensity after I become an official candidate in January. I hope you will give me an ear and lend me your support so I do not remain a voice in the wilderness. Thank you for your attention.